Hello, good morning. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com MLB strategy show. Well, live before lock, I suppose, right? Doesn't matter. One of the two. Here's what we know. We got 3 games. 12:10 Eastern is when we get started today. Not a 1 o'clock, talking 12:10 Eastern. So be aware. And I will say this much. If you think this is just a kind of plug and play slate, Andrew Abbott against Milwaukee, yeah, no problem. Let's make that. Nope, it's not. It's not. I mean, look, I took a look at the exposures. I had a feeling it was going to look this way. We'll get there in a second. Pulled up the top pitchers, pulled up the top stacks. Oddly enough, for only being 3 games, I think this is going to be a fun one. We've done well on these too, right? You know, the Sims have provided us a real sense of understanding, truly a lot of leverage on these early like 3, 4, 5 game slates, because people flock to individual pitchers like crazy, even though maybe they're not. You know, like you look at the top two probability, the likelihood that he's going to be a top 2 pitcher, just Abbott in general, 35%. He's getting 60% projected ownership right now. So yeah, we'll dive into all that. Before we do though, if you guys don't mind, you know that take a single second, atone for your sins this fine morning, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Believe it or not, all of that is 100% free to do so. If you hate it, just unsubscribe. You never have to hear from me or any of us here on the Stokastic DFS channel again. But if you like it, maybe you made the greatest decision of your life, one way or another. Do me a solid here. Help us feed that algorithm. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Get us heading in the right direction. Yeah. Hot Rod Sims was right on Minnesota as well. So Minnesota went crazy. Yeah, I mean, that was a value thing. And the fact that Minnesota had a good matchup in a good park, and they were oddly discounted everywhere. Willie Castro, 2-homer game. Yeah, it's, you know, it's not going to be, I hate to even use the term right, because the Sims, if you're looking at it as like projecting what's going to happen, it's not the way it is. It's projecting, it's giving you, like, when it's simulating these contests, right? And giving you the highest simmed ROI, but with all of these lineups, it's essentially saying, like, you know, here are the lineups that will look best, that will win you the most money when these teams do well, right? And that's why you might not get a lot of an Andrew Abbott, right? Or you might not last week or the week before that, whatever it was, get a ton of Hunter Brown, who was like 78% owned in that spot against Tampa. We ended up getting a lot of Tampa because if Hunter Brown does well, sure, you could win, but you're going against you're going against almost 80% of the field on a 3 or 4 game slate. So all of that's factored in heavily. Jermaine, what's the top early slate stack? Jermaine, come on, man, give me a second. We just got started here, brother. We will get there. I got the top stacks tool already updated, top pitchers. We got the Sims. Don't worry. We're going to hit on all of that. We don't need to do a super long show here either. I'm thinking, 30, 35 minutes, 3 games. I think we'll be able to cover everything. The most important thing with all of this is that I can feel like at the end of this show, I've hopefully given you guys as much information as you need. And for those of you guys who are premium Sims users and have the tools, a better understanding of how they work. For those of you who aren't, get introduced to them and be able to see some of this data without jumping behind the paywall, even though you should. But if you don't want to, this show's always going to be free. BD, what up? Stopping by for a sec to hit the like. Stick around, man, if you got nothing to do. Yeah, so let's do it. Let's do it. Where did I miss? What was I missing here? Oh. There it is. Fact, atoned. Good morning from South Carolina. Good morning, man. Good morning to all you guys. Red Skittles, any weather spots, Rothy D. That's good. No, I'll lean on Roth today. Well, actually, you don't even need to. Here's what I'll tell you. It's going to be hot as shit in a couple of these parks. Boston, you're high 80s, right? High 80s with winds blowing out to left center at like 12 miles per hour. You have, what else? Cincinnati, 86 degrees. Winds blowing right to left. So nothing crazy there, but still, anytime Great American Ballpark, you start getting into these summer months, these June, July, Augusts, and it starts getting hot there, tough spot to pitch. And Milwaukee's got a 4.7 implied total today as well. On the other side of this one, you got a 4.7 total against probable long reliever Quinn Priester for Cincinnati. So yeah. Fischler, that discounted week of max has me going full max instead of core now. Huge difference. Yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm glad you took advantage of it. And, that's why we do those type of things. It's like, you know what? I think it's probably worth sticking around now. I love this specific package, and let's do it. But that's awesome, man. Yeah, the max is pretty cool. Max has everything. I mean, core has everything. It just doesn't simulate as many contests. That's all. Generate as many contests. So let's get into it. All right. And if you guys have any questions ever, you can hit me up here. If it's after the fact in the comments or over on Twitter, my DMs are always open. You can find me there. So you've got 3 games. One of these games, obviously inside of a dome between Colorado and Miami. Funny thing there is you could make a great argument for both of those pitchers because the offenses are so dismal. But look at the top 2 pitcher probabilities. I want you guys to pay attention to this for a second, okay? This is going to be pretty enlightening. You have 5 of the 6 pitchers with the top 2 pitcher probability. The reason it's top 2 is because on DraftKings, you play 2 pitchers. Like you look at FanDuel early, top 1. And Giolito is up top at 20%, but you've got 5 pitchers in between 16 and 20%. On DraftKings for the early slate, you have 5 pitchers between 30 and 40% top 2 pitcher probability. So what does this suggest? 1, that all 5 of them are relatively decent options today. 2, that nobody really stands out. You could argue, no, Abbott stands out. It's like, yeah, okay. Guy's been fantastic this year. And unquestionably, this guy's been one of the better arms in the league this season. Take nothing away from him there whatsoever. Here's the difference. He's $9,600 today in a game against Milwaukee that has a 9-run total, and the Brewers have a total north of 4.5. So I don't think you can just ignore that either. And to be fair, another reason why Abbott might look good to you is, at least the last time I looked, the Milwaukee Brewers had been pretty terrible against lefties this year. Let me see if that's still the case. Am I right on here? Yeah, 108 ISO, 85 WRC plus. They've been pretty terrible against lefties. However, Andrew Abbott's $9,600. Now, normally you'd look at something like this and say, yeah, but Laffy, he's $9,600 and everybody else sucks. It's like, yeah, okay, well, I guess let's take a second to digest this then, because Giolito's been fine. He hasn't been racking up strikeouts, but even last start, while he didn't get out of the 5th inning against the Braves, he went 4 2/3 with 1 earned, 3 Ks. Look, I'm trying to put lipstick on a pig here, but in a way I'm not. I am and I'm not. We are, but we aren't. The game before that, he went 7 scoreless with 6 Ks against Baltimore. Game prior to that, he got blown up against Atlanta, but then he went 6 2/3 with 5 Ks against Kansas City the game prior to that. So, I mean, all in all, Giolito over the last month has been more good than he has been bad, And I know the strikeout stuff is not what it was prior, but the Angels strike out at the highest clip in the league against righties. They walk at one of the lowest clips. Actually, that's not true, but they do strike out at one of the highest clips in the league. This game, very favorable for hitters, given the temperatures, given the winds blowing out. But so is the Cincinnati game. And then if you get beyond Lucas Giolito, who's 7,800, sub 8K against the highest K team versus righties in baseball, you have Cal Quantrill against possibly the worst team to ever step foot on a baseball diamond. Cal Quantrill's not exciting, but he's $6,700. The Colorado Rockies are the Colorado Rockies, and that's all that needs to be said. So surely he has to be considered, right? I know at times it's been a tough go for Quantrill, but he's been actually okay at home. The Rockies have a slate low 4-run total. Matter of fact, there's not a single team within a half a run of them. So yeah, it's so easy for us to look at players and be like, you can't play him. I got so much of that last week doing this show. It was, you can't play, who's the guy that had his ball removed for Chicago? How am I just drawing a blank here? Whatever. The guy that had his nut removed. You can't play him. Yeah, you certainly can. And you absolutely should. And ended up having a phenomenal game. No, not Lance Armstrong. Who's the righty for? He's been around forever. Sometimes my mind just goes blank. It happens. But you get what I'm saying. Like, you just have to be able to embrace spots, given the price point, given all of this stuff, they're viable. That's all. Jameson Tyon, thank you. And by the way, I answered that myself. There wasn't one person in chat that could have told me. Jameson Tyon. We know the name. I just was blanking. I don't know if he had it removed, but I know he had testicular cancer for sure. So yeah, Giolito, Quantrill, Abbott, 60% owned. Kyle Freeland against Miami. What do you guys want to do with Kyle Freeland? Yeah, on the surface, you go, this is gross. How could we ever play Kyle Freeland? Hey, $6,000 against the Miami Marlins. Marlins aren't good. Kyle Freeland's not good. But the Marlins aren't good either. Does this end up being a game where both of these teams just end up being positive on offense and both pitchers get rocked? Possibly. Or this ends up being a 2-1 game and Quantrill and Freeland throw their best games of the year because these are the two best matchups they're going to get each year. Unless, of course, Kyle Freeland was capable of facing his own team, which isn't going to happen unless he gets moved. And then you've got Siriano against Boston. 8K Siriano. He's been solid this year. Strikeout stuff is not exciting, though. And this is a brutal park. So I think for me, at least, before we look at exposures in their entirety, I think I'd still prefer Giolito over Soriano just because you've got a better matchup from a strikeout standpoint by a mile for Giolito. Now, it is fair to point out that Mike Trout is back. So this LA strikeout stuff is a little bit skewed. There's no doubt about it. But also they've got some guys that strike out even with Mike Trout back in the lineup. So let's see. And another thing that sucks is that Moncada just hit the IL. That guy strikes out at an alarming clip. He has to have, and one of you guys could tell me if you want to pull it up, he has to have like a 33% strikeout rate this season, something preposterously high. I don't know. But yeah. Yeah, so Quinn Priester being the only other guy, it's like, do you get to any of him at 7,500? Long relief here. Who is it? I think it's Hall that's getting the open, right? DL Hall. Yeah, that should be getting the open in this spot. I don't know. I mean, my assumption is that Quinn Priester shouldn't really have a ton of limitations here. He's thrown 84 and 71 pitches over his last two outings, 6 innings in both. So there's something to be said about him being able to go relatively deep into this game. Again, throw him into the same bucket as all of these other guys. So let's take a look at exposures. I ran the Sims 25% to first, 5,000 in the contest generator. You guys obviously can play with that however you want and adjust this based on what contest you're playing. If you're playing the Minimax, you want it to be 10% to first. Minimax is almost always 10% to first. Same with the four-seamer. A lot of those single entry contests as well be like 10, 15% to first. Some are 5%. But here you go. pitcher exposure, the big reveal. I'll zoom in for you a little bit here. Giolito, 58%. Kyle Freeland, 45%. Cal Quantrill, 43%. Soriano, 31%. Quinn Priester, 12%. Andrew Abbott bringing up the rear at 10%. So there's the stand. You guys play this however you want. You want to get to Andrew Abbott today with how well he's pitched this season, be my guest. I'll never sit here and tell you you're a moron for doing one thing or the other. What I will say is that Andrew Abbott is coming in. We're coming in very underweight to Andrew Abbott. Could he go out there and throw 7 scoreless with 8 Ks? Absolutely. And Milwaukee has not been great against lefties. No doubt about it. But also, could Andrew Abbott at $9,600 and 60+% projected ownership, could that be a spot that is well worth fading on a 3-game slate where the opposition has an implied total of 4.7? Yeah, I'd say the answer is yes. Now, maybe you only want to get a little bit underweight to him. Fine. Typically in this spot, if a guy's super owned and I'm getting underweight to him, I'm just going to go, I'll sell out. I have no problem doing that. Right? So then in a case like this ends up being one of those spots where I am, objectively looking for Andrew Abbott to have a bad game. Or honestly, Andrew Abbott could have a modest game, right? Modest output here. He has like 16 to 20. But if Giolito or Freeland or Quantrill or even Soriano have games that are in that ballpark at considerable discounts, that's fine too. What you're really fading is the monster game from Andrew Abbott. But consider that for a second, guys. I see a bunch of you that said this is your first time watching an MLB show, first time playing MLB DFS. Understandable. NBA's coming to a close. You get the final started tomorrow, but plenty of days without NBA going forward and then none. So understand this, right? Like you could see a guy in Andrew Abbott that clearly, could project better than a lot of other players. And in this case, that's not even happening. But let's say he was. If he has a decent game, but not a great game, if Giolito at an $1,800 discount or even Freeland in a good matchup at a $3,600 discount, $2,900 cheaper Cal Quantrill, $1,600 cheaper Jose Soriano, if any of those guys have decent games, preferably 2 of them, then Andrew Abbott's decent game looks pretty terrible at $9,600. So yeah, that's all. Kyle Whittington, my stand is no Soriano. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, look, Soriano, it's not really a huge stand. He's 28% owned right now. Actually, that's what we're getting, the pool ownership in the Sims. He's projected at, around 28%. Around 28%. So that makes sense. If you're getting the less Soriano against Boston in a really good hitting condition type atmosphere there, not going to fault you for that. I will say the one thing about Soriano that to me stands out that should benefit him in a game like this. He's allowed 1 home run over like his last 10 starts. This guy, he's allowed 3 home runs on the season across almost 70 innings. If there's someone who's done a phenomenal job of keeping the ball in the yard, that could benefit from, winds blowing out, hot temperatures, Soriano certainly fits the bill, right? Anybody want to take a guess at his ground ball rate this year? Give you a second. Take a guess. Let's have some fun. Take a guess what Soriano's ground ball rate is this year. And don't say anything egregious and prove that you don't know what a high or low ground ball rate is, but many of you do. What do you think his ground ball rate is this year? Because I'll tell you what, looking at all of this right now would suggest that Jose Soriano actually profiles well when you're dealing with pitching like this. That's just one man's opinion, but it's actually not an opinion. It's stating facts. And anybody that can generate a lot of ground balls and keep the balls from leaving the yard is going to fare better than a fly ball pitcher with a 20% home run to fly ball rate. You know, it's pretty simple. But the ground ball rate is why he's been as good as he has been this year. But I will tell you, his ground ball rate, let's see, who got closest? Aaron Lilly, right on the money along with DFS Temp. And by the way, some of these answers, like Einsteinium, 55%, yeah, reasonable answer. Roger Allen, 57. Brandjoy, 52. Red Skittles, Ken, 66% ground ball rate for Soriano this year. Andre Palante's number 2 in the league at 63%. So Soriano has the highest ground ball rate among all starting pitchers by over 3% this year. That's absurd. 66% ground ball rate for Jose Soriano is wild. Naturally, that's going to tend to depress strikeouts, but it should also allow these guys, he has a 15% fly ball rate. So allow these guys to pitch deeper into games. 15% fly ball rate is just silly. Doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. You know, that's just par for the course. Strand rate, BABIP, all that stuff. Look, the more you put the ball in play, your BABIP's going to be a little bit higher. 322 BABIP, but that's manageable. And a 384 xFIP, 374 FIP. He's been pretty good. You're just not going to get anything really exciting on all of them. But also, Jose Soriano could have a decent game and still give you 13, you know? That's the problem with a guy like this. To get a good game from Soriano, you need him to go 6 or 7 scoreless. And even then, like the guy went 6 scoreless with the win last week and still only had 16 DraftKings points. That's not encouraging. Stephen Leibowitz, Soriano launch angle minus 3.1. Red Skittles, what's Giolito's fly ball rate? By the way, you guys ever want to pull up? There's a lot of places you can do it. Baseball Savant, you name it. Fangraphs to me is super easy, just doing this show to get through stuff, and it's free. Giolito ground ball rate this year, 42%. So not bad. Barrel rate, 9%. That's, again, is it elite? No, but it's not terrible. What's important, too, is you have specific guys. Jamison Tyon, who we talked about, is actually a good example of this. Not on the slate, but a good example of somebody who will give up home runs, but give up solo shots. You know, those type of pitchers for DFS are insanely valuable because you could give up 2 home runs if they're both solo shots. Who cares if you can get deep into a game and limit base runners? You know, Aaron Nola is the opposite. He'll go 4 innings with no base runners and then give up 2 3-run shots in the same inning. But, you know, I care more about a pitcher's ability to limit production when runners are on the base paths. Giolito, I think the jury's still out on him. He's only made 6 starts so far. But I have no problem getting there. I have no problem getting the Soriano either. I don't really think there's a ton that distinguishes one of these guys from the other. That's the God's honest truth at their price point. Giolito, Freeland, Quantrill, Soriano, even Priester. The only reason Abbott is kind of on an island isn't because he's not good. It's because he's so much more expensive than everybody else. But here's the funny thing, and I have not looked at stack exposure yet. I haven't even looked at the top stacks tool because I enjoy doing this with you guys as we reveal some of this stuff, right? Plan B Smoothies. Happy 41st birthday, Laffy. Biggest fan. Thanks, brother. Not my birthday. Not turning 41, but I appreciate you and the kind words and using that free super chat. DFS Temp. Savant has DL Hall starting today as Priester confirmed. DL Hall is opening. So yes, he is starting, but he's opening. So I wouldn't anticipate him going super deep into this game. 2 innings or so would be my assumption. Obviously depends on how he pitches and who he faces. You know, if you can go 1, 2, 3 and get through the order, 1, 2, 3 up and down, you might go 3 innings. Who knows? Matter of fact, I think last time he actually did that. He allowed 1 base runner, 1 walk. But yeah, he went 3 with no hits, 1 base runner, and they let him go 3. Sure, because you're just getting through that order the one time. They don't like to turn. Generally, you don't want to see him turn around an order on an opener. So all of these guys look pretty good. And when I say pretty good, I mean relative to the matchup, to the price point, to the ownership, you name it. Like if Freeland's really only going to be 14% owned, how do you not get to some of him if Quantrill is 33% owned? You know, let's be intellectually honest here and say that away from home, Kyle Freeland's actually been fine. He doesn't have electric strikeout stuff, but away from home, this guy's been perfectly fine. Yeah, sure, pitching in Coors Field, he's been an unmitigated disaster, as most of these pitchers are. Unless, of course, you're facing the Rockies, and he doesn't have that luxury. So we'll take a look at the top stacks tool here. And by the way, you guys ever want to use these tools? I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't. The amount of wins that we've had in MLB with the Stokastic avatar and people using the tools recently has been, it's been outrageous to say the least. Genuinely. Just 2 days ago. Hold on. Oh, did I do this? Did I screw up? Hold on, let me make sure you guys can still hear me. Every time I accidentally turn a video on, it freezes my camera. Let me see if the screen share still works here. Is the screen share still working? If it is, then I don't care about my camera. So dumb. There we go. If it is, then I don't care about my camera. Okay. So dumb. There we go. And somehow there's like an echo here as well. But we'll get through this. Look, I can certainly talk enough to where you will never even notice this echo. I don't know why there's an echo. I don't know why there's feedback. If I keep talking, I think we'll be able to avoid this. That is my hope. Let me see something real quick. Anyway, look, you want to check the tools out. We've had a pretty preposterous amount of wins. This is 2 days ago. This is last week. 50K, Jorge taking down the mini max. This was Memorial Day, Danny C with 100K. This was 2 days before that, Lathuma 50K, 2 days after signing up for the Sims. And this was a week before that, a Millie winner in the PGA streets, 20K to Sloppy Poppy in the MLB streets. I can't say enough about how these tools have worked for the users rocking the avatars. It's been very exciting. And makes me very happy to be able to talk about this. If you ever want to check the tools out, just DM me at Laffy_D. I'll hit you up with a great promo code. I know 2 more of you took advantage of that yesterday. One of you on Instagram, one of you on Twitter. Hit me up on either. My handle's right there. Or if you say, I would like to get these tools at an absurdly cheap price point, here's what you do. Go to the link in the description where it says sign up with any of our sportsbook partners and get Stokastic Sims free. Simply follow these 4 steps, okay? Whether you're in a non-legal betting state or a legal betting state, we have all of the pick'em sites, all of the betting sites. Simply click claim offer. You have to click that, or otherwise we can't track you to make sure you signed up and we can't give you the free sub. Deposit. Usually the minimum deposit is $5. Some it's $10, but usually $5. Place that $5 on whatever you want, and once it's done, send us a screenshot at support@stokastic.com. These steps are right there. Email us with all you got to do, email us with your welcome email, a screenshot of that from that book or that pick'em site, and your first settled bet, and simply let us know what you want. Say, I would like the month of the MLB Sims, or I'd love a month of PGA Sims because I already have MLB. That's all you got to do. And here's the best part. If you're like, hey, I got $20 that's burning a hole in my pocket, use this claim offer, sign up on 4 of them, and now you've got 4 free months of The Sims for whatever sports you want. Simply can't beat it. It's the biggest, essentially no-brainer sign-up offer we have. So you can either DM me and I'll hook you up with a great promo code for a month, or you can take this avenue and get in at whatever the minimum deposit is for any of these. Every single one equals another month of whatever sport you want for the Sims over at Stokastic. So the guy, whoever was saying your tools are expensive yesterday, only if you don't know where to look, my friend. Anyway, let's take a look at the top pitchers tool or top stacks tool. And yes, I'm frozen there. I'm not very good at, I'm not a ventriloquist. So you have, so pay attention to this screen and not my face. So Richard, the site does more marketing than actual DFS content. That's interesting, given it's literally the first time I've mentioned it in the 34 minutes that I've been live. So go to the top stacks tool and go to, and also this show is free, to Boston up top, 5-6 against Soriano. I understand that even though he's a ground ball pitcher, they're getting ownership, but so are a lot of these teams. The Angels against Giolito, I think, are genuinely a great stack today, and I'm excited to see how much of them in the Sims we get to. Milwaukee against Abbott, I get that as well. So like I said, see what I mean? We're getting to a lot of these pitchers, but you look at ownership, all of these pitchers, like Milwaukee, LA, Cincinnati, and Boston are all 16+% owned as far as ownership goes. You look at top value, all of them 13+%. Colorado looks the best, but you know, obviously this is a problem because it's the Rockies. But I don't even think it's crazy if you wanted to go there against Quantrill because it's a 3-game slate and they have 6% ownership. So top stack probability, you've got Boston and LA in the 20s. You've got Milwaukee at 16, Cincinnati at 14, and Miami at 13. Yeah, Brandon, I'll show you that right now, as a matter of fact. Leverage, Colorado's up there for sure. Miami, again, no surprise. They're just not going to be as popular because it's two bad teams. And we're getting to a decent amount of the pitchers. But what about FanDuel? Sure. FanDuel, hopefully this feedback is manageable with me continuing to talk. Did I just get logged out? Come on. All right, hold on a second here. Let me see if I can log back in. So we can try and just log. I don't know why it would have logged me out mid-show. Mid-show. Should be good here. Let's see if we can pull her up. There we go. All right, so FanDuel. You wanted FanDuel early top stacks? Sure. FanDuel early. And we've got Boston, LA, ownership. Who asked that? Brendan? Yeah, so there you go. Ownership, Boston, LA, then Cincy, Miami, Milwaukee. Top value, Boston, Miami, LA. So actually good value in Boston and LA. And then leverage for you, Brendan. Miami, again, no surprise, Milwaukee and Colorado. As far as our stack exposures go, no, you didn't break anything, dude. It's just, you know. Officially, is your remember me button clicked? Yeah, it auto-filled everything in. It's just you get signed out sometimes. All right, so let's go stack exposure, 5-man stack exposure, Boston, even though we have 30% Soriano. I'm a little surprised we're not getting to more LA against Giolito. How popular are they on DraftKings? Is this why? Let's see. This is LA super popular? Because if LA is super popular on DraftKings against Giolito, then it would only make sense. But I'm pretty sure Giolito is really popular. So I'm a little bit surprised here, especially with Mike Trout in the lineup. They are second highest owned. Okay, not crazy. I thought we'd get more. But I guess at the same time, maybe I'm downplaying that because we're still getting around 20% 3, 4, and 5-man stacks combined, right? If we were to go into lineups and then look at exposure caps here and then go to stack exposures, we have, 19.3% Angels, 31% Boston. Here, okay, so there you go. I was wondering where this was coming from. Milwaukee, ton of Milwaukee against Abbott. Again, I'll tell you guys, This doesn't always work, but when it does work, by the way, that's a lot of 3-man Milwaukee, interestingly, and 4-man. When it does work, it works absurdly well. So you end up getting massively overweight to a team that is not getting a ton of ownership, but their opposing pitcher is getting a ton. It either works great or it's a wrap. And sometimes it doesn't work well. With Tampa against Hunter Brown, it worked phenomenally. With Tampa against, who the hell? Tampa against Giolito, or I'm sorry, not Giolito, Kevin Gossman, worked really well. You know, just a matter of the day. And it looks like right now, here, I'll show you guys something interesting. If you look at, for pitchers, you look at simulated player, ROI, this is, you know, after we run these tens of thousands of sims, this is the simulated ROI. So this, after everything was simulated, what was the individual player ROI? So, you know, lineups with this player in them, what were the minus 23% on Andrew Abbott, which is one of the reasons why he just does not profile all that well for us today. Whereas like a 6K Kyle Freeland, pretty good. Even, you know, negative 12 on some of these guys, still pretty good. Let's see, what player? Xavier Edwards has the highest simulated player ROI, ahead of Christian Yelich, Otto Lopez, Augustin Ramirez, and Connor Norby. Okay. All right. Local dank crew. People shouldn't be so scared to stand against Abbott. He's putting balls in the air 71% of the time in a park like Great American Small Park. I'll take my chances. Sure. But local dank crew, even if he wasn't, you shouldn't be really afraid to take a stand against anybody on a 3-game slate. You know? Einsteinium, on a 3-game slate, it's surprising that Sims isn't giving us exposure to the 2 lowest owned positively leveraged stacks. Yeah, but also, if you consider that you are getting way overexposed to Milwaukee, they're really not much more owned than Miami. You're getting way overexposed to Milwaukee when the opposing pitcher is 60%. I think that's enough leverage in its own right, don't you? I understand what you're saying, but I also am not super shocked that we're not getting a ton of them. You know, we're getting like 7%. Colorado, 8%. Decent amount of Miami. Like 17%, not bad. You know? Milwaukee, Boston, a lot of Boston, a lot of Milwaukee. This should be fun. I'm going to go build my lineups. As always, I hope you guys have found this helpful. I hope you guys are aware that I do what I can to get all the information out there and not just do marketing. I think we spent around 1 minute on that out of a 45-minute show. But you can't please everybody, can you? Someone said Edwards is out. Okay, guys, I updated this before. I update this before lineups come out. So rerun the Sims, obviously. It's still giving us, you know, what we need. But, yeah, man. Yeah. Check the tools out. Use the link in the description. Sign up with that. DM me if you want to get in with the promo code. I'll give you a great code for a month of the Sims. It's not free, obviously, but it's a steep discount. Let's say that. Home runs today. Vlad Guerrero. Night slate, 4-1 on DK. Christian Walker plus 420 on FanDuel. Any other positive edge spots here? We got one more. ESPN bet. Teoscar Hernandez at plus 450. And we'll check one more thing before we go here. Total strikeouts. I know you guys enjoy looking at this as much as I do, because it gives us a little bit more insight into the pitchers we're dealing with. Instead of sorting from high to low edge, this is the OddsShopper live odds tool, by the way. Separate from Portfolio EV, which is market-based, but this is too. It's just Portfolio EV is that robust and advanced algorithm, whereas this one we can set our own edges. But let's see. And by the way, free week always down there in the description if you wanted to try it for yourself. Freeland 4.5. All right, juice to the under, but 4.5 on Kyle Freeland. Hey, that's not bad. 4.5 on Quantrill. Little less juice on the under, but still. Andrew Abbott. Okay, so what? Why does Caesars keep putting out these? Is this right? Like Caesars putting out these lines with no hook on them makes no sense for strikeouts. Like, why would you be putting this at a 6 when the likelihood of it pushing is so high? I genuinely don't understand this. Let's see if it's actually at a 6. If you just click these, it'll load the bets into your bet slip. So this will make it easy for me to actually see if that's what they're doing here. Jay, for sure, man. Anytime there's a 3 or more game slate early, I'll always do an early slate show. Why not? It makes way more sense for us to do it that way.